Do you find it difficult to choose between your child and your husband?
No.
Really?
No. He's number one, my baby's number two. And you choose to be married every day. You choose to be in love every day. You choose your husband and you choose your family every day. It's a choice that you make literally every day. Marriage is hard work. Motherhood is even harder. You have to choose him every day. I didn't have these kind of thoughts that how do I start a company and what do I do. I just wanted to go and make clothes for people. I started at 21. I got a job with Manish Malhotra and I worked with him for 6 years. He's my only boss. He's the only employee I've ever had. So much to learn from a stalwart like him. I made sure that I was working in every department. I was in the design team. I was in the client team. One thing I've learned from him is no is not an answer.
Wow.
There's always a solution and you need to figure it out. But I think what I loved the most was...
Akanksha.
Yes.
Welcome to Mumbai's Millennial Mind. You are my last guest.
I mean, then let's end it with a bang.
Yeah, let's go. So happy to have you here and so happy to have met you 2 days ago, by the way.
Yes.
Literally, I met Karishma also on this couch.
Yeah.
We recorded a podcast.
Yeah.
And at the end she said, why don't you come to my birthday tonight? I go to
love
her
her.
birthday and then I meet you and then here you are.
I mean, that's how I feel like new people, new energy.
Right.
And why not?
I know, it's so nice. I feel like everyone here is very collaborative. Really nice, always introducing, really open, which
Yes.
I think is really lovely.
Yeah.
But for people who don't know who you are, and to be honest, for me, I don't even know you that well, but tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm a bridal wear Indian designer and I'm a mother, I'm a wife and I'm a homemaker and I'm an entrepreneur.
Wow.
So yeah, a lot of hats and I quite enjoy everything that I do and I feel like everything is an extension of the way I think about my work. I think I started on young. I started at 21. I got a job with Manish Malhotra and I worked with him for 6 years. He's my only boss. He's the only employee I've ever had.
No way.
And I mean, so much to learn from a stalwart like him. I made sure that I was working in every department. I was in the design team. I was in the client team. But I think what I loved the most was the fact that he invited me to style for movies. So I have worked with, I think, some of the best directors. I've worked with Imtiaz Ali for Rockstar. I have worked with the late Yash Chopra for Jab Tak Hai Jaan. And I have worked with Rohit Shetty for Chennai Express. I have worked with Ayan Mukherjee for Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. I think Manish was so instrumental in my life in my 20s that I met my husband on the sets of Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. We met on Dilli Wali Girlfriends shoot. And quite literally I was like, it can't get more filmy than this.
No.
But yeah, and I branched out and I started my label. And I made sure that there is nothing that is similar to his work, but I couldn't help but take on the love for color.
Of course.
And I think he's passed it down and I've made it my own with this Indian inherent technique called tie-dye. And what I love about that, the technique, I mean for a year I worked and I sort of put my head down. This is an advice my dad gave me. He's like, don't say no to work and do everything. Just put your head down and sketch and you'll find what you love. And I think I somewhere found my love for color in the technique, because what I love about tie and dye is that you can create any color you want as per your mood and as per your season. So for example, small example, I created about 40 odd colors when I first started.
Right.
So I was in that whole zone. I was like, I found my calling. And out of nowhere, I had this whole glum face. And I was like, these colors aren't speaking to me. I'm not feeling them. They're too bright. And so I created an entire black collection with tie-dye. That's the thing with this technique. I can do whatever I want and whatever I feel. because it's almost like color therapy, right?
Yeah.
Color has such an impact. So when you walk in, I would want my bride to be the happiest rainbow that she's feeling like. That's the goal of making color and owning color.
Yeah.
I
mean, I want these now.
Yeah.
I know they're not yours, but I'm like, give them.
No, they're not mine, but then
Leave them
I
behind.
I feel like color plays such an important part. I feel underestimate the power of color.
Yeah.
You know, you're feeling, in the movies it used to happen where the actress is sad and then we'd immediately just digress to the colder colors. We'll do the icy blue, we'll do the darker blue, the Prussian blues, the blacks will come out, the greys will come out. And then when she's a little happier, then there's the happy mouth and the happy colors.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, those things really make a difference.
They do. I want to know how you got this job with Manish Malhotra. How did you start?
It was the funniest story. I was a student at Raffles India, Design International, and my professor asked me, what do you want to do? What is your goal? And I was like, I don't want to work with a designer. I just want to go into the corporate side of fashion. And he was like, you think it's very easy to get a job with a designer? And I'm like, I don't know. And he was like, come, let's go. Building your resume was one of the projects.
Right.
And we built my resume, and I kid you not, he was so adamant on teaching me a lesson that he has taken me on that day to 5 different designers, and he's like, drop your CV and let me see if you get a call back, because you think you can get anything. Like,
really?
I was that very sassy teenager, just about starting and don't know the ways of the world, just interested in figuring out what I want and opinions that weren't worldly wise then. And I went and I actually dropped in my resume to Manish's store, and I got a call to come in for an interview, which I thought was a joke because I thought a friend of mine is joking with me.
Right.
And I hung up, and then they called me back again saying that please take us seriously. This is the number, call us back, we're not joking. And I called back, and I went into the office, and I was like, oh my god, this is my first ever interview. So I was so kicked. I was like, what's my interview look and everything? And I've walked in, I've given my first round of interviews. They asked me to come and meet Manish. I still remember I went in on the 3rd of February. I was called again on the 14th of February. And the 14th of February. No, I was called on the 12th of February. And it's all threes, that's why I remember it. And on 12th I met Manish, and he looked at me, and I was just showing him my portfolio and explaining to him, and he asked me very sweetly, what do you expect in terms of a salary? And I was like, oh, I don't need to fend a family. And he's like, no, you need to earn. Just make sure you always know what you want. And I looked at him and I was like, okay. And I was very ready to go to London to do my master's.
Right.
I wasn't really very keen to do a job. And he looked at me and he's like, you're on. And I looked at him and I'm like, okay. And I really didn't understand that you're on for the job. So I was like, oh, okay. And then he looks around and he's like, is she disappointed? And then I was like, so he was like, you're on for the job, Akanksha. What are you doing on Valentine's Day? And I was like, oh, nothing. It's just a stupid day. And he's like, okay, start on 15th February. So this is 12th February. I'm sitting at 6 p.m. in his office, bang opposite him. And he's like, start on 15th February. And there goes my plans to go to London, because I was like, I've earned this job
Right.
just by being me, and let me give this a shot.
What did your lecturer say, your teacher say?
Oh, he was very happy, but he wanted me to learn
Right.
a lesson where he's like, you need to put in the work and you need to put in that effort. Don't have these assumptions about things. And that made so much of a difference, because it's also a learning curve, right? And I got my job, and here I am.
So how did you start your own company? Because working for someone like Manish Malhotra,
Yeah.
I'm sure was, great in some ways, but also challenging in others.
It was fabulous. There was no
Really?
challenge. It was just about being there, being present, and one thing I've learned from him is no is not an answer.
Wow.
There's always a solution, and you need to figure it out. So, that being said, I think he is, apart from my father being a very influential person in my entire life, Manish was, I think, the most influential person of my 20s. He's made me travel. He's made me who I am. He's made me recognize how color plays such a big part in my life, and just life lessons. Just the way he is as a person has helped us. I think I say this for everyone who has worked with him, that we've learned something from him, and that has stayed and helped nurture our personality. And I owe this to him.
So how did you start your own brand?
I think I finished Chennai Express. While after shooting Chennai Express, we were doing clothes for Deepika, and that's when. So I picked on movies in his company based on the kind of costumes we were making.
Right.
And if you notice, all of these are very color-oriented characters that I picked for movies as well. Deepika and Ye Jawani to Deepika and Chennai Express are very different. And working under him to understand this was so inspiring. And then I felt like I need to find my own. I had a target. It was very simple. I joined as a 21-year-old. I gave myself a target that before I turn 30, I need to have my label. And to have my label, I need to find myself in 3 years. So I quit literally on the 3rd of November, and 8th November I turned 27 and I started my label.
And how do you start a fashion company here? Because it's very saturated, right? There's so many companies.
Back then it wasn't.
Really? Okay.
Yes, it wasn't. And also I didn't have these kind of thoughts that how do I start a company, what do I do?
Okay.
I just wanted to go and make clothes for people, because making clothes for actresses is quite similar to making clothes for, it's a character sketch, right? It's a character definition. So making clothes for a bride is the same thing. You're designing for a function. You're not designing for her everyday life. You're designing for an event.
But why did you want to do that instead of designing for every day?
Because I think maximalism is something that I'm very attracted to. And I have that Indian quality of wanting to make it a little larger than life. I am struggling to make a Pret collection, to be honest, because I feel like, how do I control myself from just adding something to some grandeur to it, you know? And I love meeting people. I love meeting brides. I love making sure that they are the happiest, best in that one moment. I think that is going to be a very pivotal moment in their life. And being a part of that sort of a journey is special, right?
Of course. You're also in London. You're at Esty, which I work with very closely. You're at Nakasa. You're at Pernier's. Amazing, right? Like, from someone who, how long ago did you start?
8 years ago.
8 years ago to now being globally, stored everywhere. It's crazy.
I love London. I feel like it's my second home. I've shot for movies there.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just second home to me. And people there are warm. People there are receptive to color. And are also extremely respectful of the craft, which I appreciate.
Okay. Talk to me a bit more about that. What do you mean?
They're just receptive to the craft. They admire. I think there is a lot more Indianness in people who live abroad.
Right.
And I feel like they understand the kind of embroidery, they understand the heritage, they understand the culture so much better. And they are more open to playing with color, which I love. So it's a great slate to work on.
Yeah, compared to here?
No, everyone. I feel like I attract my tribe.
Right.
And I put forth the color, and I think it just calls me back.
When you were starting your business, surely there was times where you thought, how on earth am I going to do this? Right?
I had no such doubts. I had a great sense of just focusing on putting my head down and just doing the work. I didn't think about where I'll be 5 years from now. I didn't have any target. All I wanted to do was I literally am not kidding you. I only wanted to spread the color. All I wanted to do was I just want to paint everyone and make them happy. And they should feel their happiest when they wear my outfit. Now, whether those are 5 brides in a year, or they're 50 brides in a year, or they're brides' mothers, or they're brides' sisters, I don't care. But when you see a picture of my outfit, you should smile. That was the goal. There was no, I don't know if I was the girl who wanted to have a store in 5 years or some kind of benchmark. No, I didn't. I just wanted, I think I'm still here.
Right.
And I'm still there in my head, but I feel like now that I have established my label, I want to take it forward in a way where I am able to expand to different countries, spread my wings around, and I get calls from Switzerland, I get calls from Africa, I get calls from parts from India where I've not even traveled to, but somewhere my clothes are traveling there, and it makes me feel nice.
When you were starting your company, were you married?
No, I was 27. I was dating my husband. I met him on the sets of Ye Jawani Ye Diwani, and he was actually someone who really championed my label from day one. Like, when you have those thoughts that who's going to buy me? Who's going to buy my clothes? Like, who is going to buy my clothes? Because like I've just left Manish. Who knows me? Do I know a bride? Do I know people? And he championed. He's like, you make clothes for me and put them on me. And he would go for weddings, and I used to literally call him my lab rat.
No
Just
way.
like he would wear my clothes and go, and he'd be like, everyone's telling me that I'm better dressed than the groom. And I was like, okay, well, I'm doing something right.
How important is it to have the right person in your life?
Very. I mean, I wanted to answer it in a longer way, but I think, simply put, it is always an encouragement. It is always such a support to have someone who you are in sync with, who is your friend, who is your biggest cheerleader, and who wants to see you grow. It is so important to have that kind of a companionship in your life. You know, it makes you feel like you want to make that person proud as well. And to see someone speak about me and him watch someone speak about me and hear it out, and that joy in his face and that smile, there's like, my wife Akanksha, my girlfriend Akanksha does this and she does that, and he flaunts it, and it makes me really happy.
Do you do the same for him?
Yes.
He's great.
He's great.
I met him the other day. Yeah. He's like amazing.
He's a very good person. I think in my head I call him a dinosaur because I feel like these kind of people don't exist.
Right.
And he's a good man. He's a good son. He's a good daddy. And he's a very, very, very good husband.
When did you guys decide to get married?
He gave me an ultimatum in 2019. We went a trip to Dubai. And it was like, if you don't tell your parents.
What do you mean if you don't tell your parents?
I tell my parents because I knew for a fact that if I tell my parents I'm dating someone, they'd want me to get married.
And why didn't you want to get married?
Because I wanted to be financially independent.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that I am financially independent, to the fact that if I do get married, I would like to make a home.
Why?
I'm a builder's daughter. My dad's been in the construction line, and I've always wanted to have my own home. Creating your own space is also sort of like an extension of your creativity, right?
Correct.
And creating that safe space for yourself also helps you grow. And to grow with someone is so much more fun.
A lot of people are, I guess no one really talks about this. When you get married, is everything together, or you want to have your own independence? And people say you can be independent, but some people have a different view, right? Like some people want to have their own stuff and some people want to have things together.
Yeah.
When you said you wanted to be financially independent, what did you mean by that?
I wanted to make sure that at no point my work suffers, because I will have more responsibilities at home.
Right.
Everything with Avina and me, my husband and I, is 50-50 divided.
Right.
But at the same time, I will be still putting in, there would be another baby, right? My home is my baby, my marriage is my baby, and I have my work, which is my first baby. And I wanted to make sure that nothing suffers. For that, I needed to be financially independent. For that, I needed to be able to provide, because I have the responsibility of people who work under me and I'm running their homes. And that was a very big responsibility.
Did you grow up with privilege?
I was provided for, but we did see hard times. I think I come from a very average middle class family, and that's why I have watched my mother be dependent on my dad, and I never wanted to be that.
Why?
Because I feel like somewhere women in I believe that the generation where we were born, I was born in 1986. I have no qualms in accepting that. But women in that time, my mother was married at 23. She had me at 23.
Wow.
Yes, and I feel like they dated for 5 years. From a girlfriend, she became a wife, and then she became a mother too soon. And I feel like somewhere she just needed to be my provider, and she forgot to provide for herself.
Wow.
And my dad needed to provide, from being a boyfriend to a husband to a father, in that quick succession. And somewhere she had to let go of her own ambition to be the mother, and to be the wife, and to be the homemaker. And when I look back at her journey, I feel like I would never want to be this person who has to curb some of her ambition to be a mother. No judgment, but I just don't want to ever be that person, because there are a lot of sacrifices. And there's so much sacrifice internally that she's had to make. I think she's done it with a smile. But I'm a very ambitious girl. So I want to make sure that my son, I sort of break that generational cycle.
Right.
Where I didn't know if I'm going to have a son or a daughter. I didn't even know if I'm going to have a child. So whenever, if ever I do have, I used to think this, that whenever, if ever I do have a child, he or she will always watch their mother work. From the day the child is born, they should know that mama goes to work, because there is that sense of independence, and there should be that sense of she's doing something and she should be out of the house and she is providing for me and she is responsible. And I also want that space for myself. I feel like it helps you grow with people in your interpersonal relationships, while you're channeling your own energies towards something only you love.
You said you didn't know if you wanted to be a mother. You didn't know if you were going to have a child.
Yes.
Talk me through that.
I didn't have the best relationship with my mother growing up, because I feel like somewhere her lack of having that sense of self was missing, and somewhere I think it was projected onto me.
Yeah.
And in my initial years, I found myself not in an environment where I felt like she was happy.
Right.
And back then, I don't think people spoke about postpartum as much. It wasn't diagnosed. It wasn't even addressed.
Right.
And now when I look back and I've become a mother and I go back to her life, and I think that she did all of this in her mother-in-law's house. It was a joint family. She had a tiny little room. She had me, she had her husband, and she had to wake up at 7 in the morning and go to cook. And she had to feed me. Breastfeeding is a job in itself.
Yes.
But she had to do that and cook for the family and be a good daughter-in-law and be an attentive mother, be a loving mother, take care of her body, go through all those changes. And I felt like somewhere the resentment did come in.
For the child?
For the child, for the life. And she was a loving mother. She is a very loving mother. She fights with me to give me gifts for Holi.
Yeah.
Which is just baffling. I was like, what has happened to you? But I feel like I never want to have that struggle.
Okay.
And for that, I think being financially independent is so important, because more than the money, it gives you the power to say no.
Yes.
It gives you the power to take your own decisions and to learn from your own mistakes. No one is going to point fingers at you, because you take decisions for yourself and you're responsible and accountable to yourself. I love that. I love that feeling. I feel like, I don't think I'm a feminist, but I feel like not only woman, every individual should be financially independent and be able to find their drive, their focus, their calling, and be happy doing it, because that radiates, that comes across. When my mother started working with my father, I found her to be a completely different person. She was more interested, she had a goal.
Right.
She would leave the house with a swing in her step.
Right.
As opposed to just doing her mundane chores of providing food, asking us if we are okay, checking on us, just doing the homework. You know, and I am the biggest champion supporter of being financially independent because of that. Which is why I quit my job, because I was happy. I was traveling the globe with Manish.
Yes.
All paid for.
Right.
And I mean, which girl in her 20s wouldn't want to travel everywhere? But while I quit the job, I told him, I was like, I want to travel by myself. I want to be able to do this for myself.
Right.
And he was amazed. He was like, the first time I traveled with him was to Prague, and I chose to travel alone. And I remember in my office, he was like, Akanksha traveled by herself, and it was a goal for her to travel alone. I'd never traveled alone. I'd always traveled with my parents.
Right.
Or with school, or with college, but never by myself. And the trip to Prague was a journey in itself.
Why?
Because I almost missed my flight in Istanbul, and I have run, and I think I still have a little bit of an ankle issue because I twisted it.
Oh, no.
But I mean, just going there, working with Imtiaz Ali, working with all the foreign crew, makes so much of a difference. You understand different cultures, you understand different work cultures.
Yeah.
Working with you right now you're from the UK, your work culture is very different from my work culture.
For sure.
Right? Like we discussed, everyone's on time.
Everyone is on time.
Yes.
You were even on time today.
Yes, I mean, let's just announce this. I was on time.
You were. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
You already told me you were going to be late. That's why I was like, please come later.
No, 6:30 I reached. So I feel like the cultures matter when you travel.
Yes. Being alone though is such a weird thing people think, but I'm really strange like that. Like, I love being alone. If I have to travel with someone, I'm like, no, put me on a different flight.
Exactly.
I hate it.
Yes.
I will purposely choose to sit on the opposite side of the train, or choose to sit like on the opposite side of a plane. I remember on the way here, my dad was like, okay, I need your BA account number so I can put all of our seats together. And I was like, no, sorry, I'm in a podcast, so I can't pick up the phone. Yeah. He annoyingly logged into my account anyway and put us all together. But I was like, I'm fine with being alone. Yeah. And when there's 3 seats and then, 3 on the plane, it would always be my mom, my dad, my brother, and me. I'd always want to be alone. I'm happy to be by myself. Yes. And I think that, as girls, especially as an Indian girl, from my experience, before everyone attacks me, this is my experience I'm talking about, I was very sheltered in that way. You know, don't travel alone, don't walk at night by yourself, don't do this.
Yes.
But my parents never stopped me because they really wanted me to be independent and grow up.
My dad never stopped me.
They were worried, but they never stopped me. So when I said to them I want to go traveling by myself, of course at first they thought I was joking and they thought I was, you know, it was just something I said. And then when I booked my flight and I said I'm leaving in 3 weeks and I'm going for 3 weeks, they were like, oh my God.
But it's wanderlust.
Of course. And you know, in the beginning they were fine. They were like, okay, just put your Apple ID on so we can track every move you did. And believe me, they tracked every move I did. And then I went back to work and then I went for 2 months.
I think I would do that to my son.
Oh, it was
now
great.
I understand the parents. I think I would do that.
You would do that? Yeah, well, the second time I went, and I went for 2 months, they didn't even call me every day. They didn't even message me every day. I had to be like, hello.
Hi.
I'm alive. And they were just like, yeah, cool, have fun, bye.
I mean, that happens to me now because there are times when my parents call up and he's like, what's Adeev doing? And I was like, hi, I'm your child. Speak to me. Talk to me, ask me.
When you have a child, no one cares about you, do they? I don't even care about my cousins. I'm like to my nieces and nephews. Being a mother comes with its challenges, but also comes with its perks. What were some of your face is like no perks?
Only perks. That's what
Only perks.
I mean, I think I don't want to jinx it. Many people tell me not to say it, but I think I have a Buddha baby, and he's come from a part of me that has. I think he's got all my calm. It's the biggest joke if you tell anyone Akanksha and calm, they don't go together. But I think somewhere he's found that one little spot and he's soaked all of that in, and he is by far the most zen baby I've ever met.
Really?
And there are only perks. He sleeps on time. He eats lovingly, he smiles, he meets people, he loves being around people, and he's just a happy baby.
But building a brand and being a mother can be difficult, no?
Yes.
So
yes, I'm struggling with it right now because mentally my baby was always my work, and now I have someone who is possibly more demanding of my time than my work. And how do you balance that? And also the kind of personality shift that I've had after I've had a baby, it still blows my mind. I have developed this kind of compassion and kindness that I didn't think. I was always a kind person. I was always a very emotionally driven person. But I didn't think I could have this level of compassion that I have right now.
Wow.
All my life I have been driven by that zest and that drive and that anger to prove myself.
To who?
To myself. I only need to prove to myself that this is where I reached. And I like to look back and be like, yes, I am proud of you, Akanksha.
But why? Did that come from an insecurity?
No, it just comes from... Where does it come from actually?
Mine comes from an insecurity because I was never good in school. I was never really good at anything. And so now, and because I was never that hardworking...
You know, it's so strange you say that because I've always been a very confident person. I've always not given a damn about what people speak about me or think about me. I need to think good about myself. My self-esteem has always been top class. But...
How?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. There's like, we were talking about this to a friend of mine and she's like, how have you gone through all of this and you're just you? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if it's a scorpion in me or if it's just that I really trust myself. There is that faith that I can walk into a place alone. I can sit in a restaurant alone and eat by myself.
Yeah.
I can go to a movie theater alone. I can go with people. I can go by myself. I'm not dependent. It takes me very, very long to be dependent on a person. I think I am very dependent. I have allowed myself to be dependent on my husband. It took me 8 years.
Wow.
7 years of dating him and 1 year of marriage to possibly acknowledge that I am dependent on him. It happened on the day of my delivery. I had a C-section and there's a thing, you know, when a girl is pregnant, everyone, if anything happens, oh, is the baby okay? is the baby. Everyone was interested in the baby. No one was asking me, how are you doing? And my husband is the only one who kept saying, are you okay? Is your back okay? Because you go through back pain, you go through so many changes in your body. You're just, firstly, I'm shocked at how many changes I went through and how I went through it in a lockdown.
Right.
While we were all in a pandemic. And on the operating table, the guy, like Adev was just born at 9:31, and at about 9:35, the doctor said, you can now leave. He was with me in the operating theatre, and the doctor said, you can leave and you can be with the baby now. And he looked at me and he's like, I think I'd rather be with Akanksha. The baby is okay. And I think I married him spiritually that day.
Oh.
Because I was like, he just chose me and not his newborn baby. And it made me believe that now this is a person I can completely trust. And I just I knocked off. I think the anesthesia got in and I slept through it all. Because then I had faith that there was someone who was taking care of me.
Wow.
Who was looking out for me.
Before that, give me an example of how you couldn't depend on him. Because I know you wanted to be financially independent.
I didn't want to. I could. But he's the kind of guy who only wants to see me grow. He's like, you want to do this? He never wanted to get married. He's like, I'll only get married to you. Because I want to do marriage with you.
Wow.
I don't want to have a baby, but I want to have a baby with you. I wouldn't want to do this with anyone else.
Wow.
And not because I am some fabulous person or whatever, but he just said that this is the person I want to be with, otherwise I'm okay. I'm complete within myself. I don't need to get married. We both were this way. But I think I chose to get married, and you choose to be married every day. You choose to be in love every day. You choose your husband and you choose your family every day. It's a choice that you make literally every day. Marriage is hard work. Motherhood is even harder.
Yeah.
But when you don't consider it to be work, and when you make that choice every day, you wake up, we fight, and then I make sure that, but I love him. But I love him. This is how it is. And you have to choose him every day.
Do you find it difficult to choose between your child and your husband?
No.
Really?
No. He's number one, my baby's number two. Because he came into my life first,
How
and he gave me my baby. We talked about this actually.
Because a lot of men get insecure around their child.
No. We made this decision and we made this pact. And I was like, you'll always feed me cake first and then you'll feed the baby. Please understand, I gave you the baby. So you love me first.
This is why he fell asleep when he said, I'll stay with you.
Yeah.
Because you're like, thank God he didn't.
But you know, it's so strange. Adeeb loves Avinay and me cuddling.
Really?
Like yesterday we were cuddling. I was cuddling with Avinay just to see how he reacts. And he just smiles and he comes and he wants to have a group hug.
Right.
I think that's the environment I want him to grow up in, where he's secure enough with his mother and his father.
You talked previously around, navigating through motherhood with your body and how everything was changing and all these new things and your hormones. Yeah, that's why you have a pillow there. You learned that off Coffee with Karan. I love that.
Yes.
Talk to me about that. Did you always have a pillow when you did interviews?
No.
Okay.
But I mean, you go through so many changes, and everyone says that you made a baby, flaunt your body.
Yes.
But you are a girl and you've been a certain way. You look in the mirror and you've been a certain way, and clothes have fit you a certain way all your life.
Right.
And then suddenly you look odd. It feels odd.
Right.
And also I feel like girls have this terrible habit to dissect their body more than what it is.
Right.
Like all my life, I keep saying this to my husband now, that 36-year-old Akanksha goes back to the 31-year-old Akanksha and looks at Akanksha's photograph and is like, if only I become that body type. And the 31-year-old Akanksha in that moment is insecure.
Yes.
That, are my arms too big? Are my legs too jiggly? Am I not fit enough? Should I suck in my stomach? So the 31-year-old also wasn't happy, and the 36-year-old also wasn't happy. And I've just realized now this is what it is. Smile, and only your smile will show.
Yes.
Nothing else matters. I think that's where I've reached, and hearing myself talk, sometimes I feel like I have an identity crisis, because who am I now? Who have I become? But I think there's a sense of calm, and then there's a sense of stability, where I've realized that if I put a smile on, and if I just enjoy the moment sitting with Shivani and giving this interview, I'll be happy. People will not be looking at my stomach. People will be looking at me and hearing and listening to what I'm saying.
So you want to throw the pillow away now?
No.
I understand what you're saying. I think you're so right. I think we always criticize ourselves.
Yes.
When we're younger, it's
all the time.
When it's younger, it's one thing. When you're older, it's I look too old. And when you're too old, it's like I wish I was younger.
Yeah.
And we always hope to be in either the past or the future, and we don't enjoy the present.
Exactly.
And you never get. This is gone now. The 5 minutes ago we had 5 minutes ago is gone.
Exactly.
So even with these interviews, one thing that people always ask me is, don't you get stressed? Don't you get nervous? And I always say, I enjoy it.
But it's people, it's energy.
Right.
You're learning so much. I mean, I'm learning so much from you. I'm hoping you're learning something from me, and it's just exchanging energy. I will go back home happier.
Right.
That I had someone who was interested in listening to me.
We all struggle with that, don't we?
Yeah.
Listening to other people.
Yes.
But sometimes listening to too many people can be overwhelming. How do you block out the outside noise?
I have a fuck off on my forehead. Like after a while, I do not allow anyone to enter my space.
Right.
I have a boundary, and those boundaries are very, very, very high up. So I need to protect myself. I think I have never been in therapy, but I do constantly try to become better, to think better, to constantly correct myself. I will evaluate myself. I will learn from my experiences. What could I do better? How could I be better? How could I have made that sound better? Was I rude? I was a bratty teenager, and now when I look back and I'm like, I could have done that better. How could I have handled that better? So creating those boundaries to self-correct, cut out the noise, and just focus between 2 ears, because everything is between your 2 ears. It's in your mind, right? Everything is in your mind. You can control it. You can let go of it. You can lose it. But it's all between your 2 ears. And the power is always within you. That's what we were talking about, right? I really want to always be in my feminine energy, my highest divine feminine energy, because I want to be the best version. There is someone who's now looking at me and is going to copy me in my thoughts, in my behavior, in my attitude. And I want to be responsible, mindful, and accountable to him for that.
I spoke to a therapist, a coach actually, and she said the ages between 0 to 7 are the most important for your child, because you're absorbing everything.
Yes.
You mentioned that your mum had postpartum depression.
Yes.
Have you been able to let go of that?
Yes.
Good.
The pandemic really helped me, and my goal was that before I allow my husband to come into my life and into my family, I need to fix what was wrong.
Right.
I needed to fix my relationship with my mother. I needed to mend it. I needed to forgive, because she did her best. In fact, she did better than her best, and I needed to acknowledge that. I needed to acknowledge the fact that in her limited understanding of a 23-year-old, a naive 23-year-old in 1986. She really did her best. And I've actually got the flair of fashion from her, because she used to find these, she made sure in the limited capacity, we weren't very well to do, we were an average middle class, but she made sure that I got the best birthday dress, the best Diwali dress.
Yeah.
I had the funkiest bags and she just made me feel like I was provided for.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have to be grateful, right? And I have to stop being angry.
Right.
And I have to, if at 35 you can't fix yourself and you can't forgive, then you're a fool to constantly hold on to it and not grow. I want to grow. I want to heal, and I want to grow with the people who are possibly so in love with me.
How do you learn to let go? Because there'll be people that are watching and listening to this that are thinking, okay, I've had a difficult relationship with my parents. I've had a difficult relationship with my partner or my children. And again, this coach said to me, there's 3 relationships in life that will never change. Your parents,
Yeah.
your child,
Yes. And yourself.
and your siblings.
Ah.
Because no matter what you do, they will never not be.
Yes.
Your husband cannot be your husband.
Yeah.
Right? But your siblings will always be your siblings, your parents will always be your parents, and your children will always be your children. So how did you learn to let go of that?
I think lockdown really helped. I had a lot of time to sit and evaluate, and I meditated. Just randomly Google 15 minutes of meditation, and it became a goal where I had to shut my mind, right? Even when you're meditating, there are 100 thoughts in your brain. There's some noise from outside your room, you're distracted. How do you find your focus? How do you find yourself thinking of nothing? It became such a challenge that every week I would be I reached 6 minutes, I reached 8 minutes of nothingness, I reached 11 minutes of nothingness. And also with that, I realized that I was able to have clarity in my thought. So I would just sit her down and be like, instead of being aggressive, I would be compassionate and be like, I didn't like this. You know, I didn't like it. I wish we could do this better.
Right.
And can we redo it? And if I said something wrong, I'm sorry. Because I also reacted badly, right?
Right.
So I could control, if I can't control the opposite person from behaving a certain way with me, I can most definitely control how I react to it. And there are a few things I've learned. I'm not very old, I'm only 36 years old. But the few things that I've learned is that you do not react when you're angry or when you're extremely happy. You should react when you're in a sense of calm and take those decisions. And that has helped me mend so many relationships. And it takes 2 to tango.
Right.
So she made the effort back. I see so many wounded children, even now, living in their wounded child energy. And that's because, unfortunately, the parent hasn't healed themselves. And my mother went through the journey of healing herself, and I went through the journey of healing myself. And then we could come to actually be best friends.
Did you go to therapy?
No.
What?
No.
So how did you have this sudden realization?
Like I said, the lockdown really helped. I had a lot of time to reflect.
Wow.
And to possibly go back in their shoes. To just, I think I have a lot of empathy, and I think I am a person with good EQ. And I literally just transported myself into that time, into their shoes, and to go through her life and her day every day. I would talk to her a lot.
Right.
Like, what did you do then? How did you do then? So what did you do? When I was born, how long did you stay in the hospital?
Because
When
you
did
were a new
come
mother
back?
yourself, right?
No, I just wanted to understand where she came from. How did my dad react to it? When my brother was born, I remember I was left at the neighbor's house, and I woke up to suddenly thinking, where the hell am I? And I was told that your mum is gone to hospital. So I didn't understand, right? I was 5 years old. So I thought that, okay, now these are my new parents and my parents have left me. That's all I understood, because I didn't understand mama's pregnant, daddy's gone with mama to the hospital.
Right.
I was just in the neighbor's house and I was like, okay, I guess now they've left me and they're in the hospital. So hospital means like either you're sick or you're dead. And I thought they've abandoned me, and now these are my parents. So in my head I was like, okay, so they are my siblings now, or step siblings, and they are my step parents. And in about an hour my dad came in to pick me up, and I was like, oh, you haven't left me. And then I remember my mother always tells me, she's like, you came running to hug me in the hospital, like as if I had left you and you'd met me after years and years.
God.
And I hugged her, and I remember, so I asked her, I was like, then what happened? So the way I understood her is by asking her, so how long were you in the hospital? When my brother was born, we were not financially stable for my dad to even distribute mithai to the building, to the neighbors.
Yeah.
My neighbors actually distributed mithai. And from there, like now when I learn back and I hear this story, and I'm like, in that, they managed to raise a child. There was no lift in my building. My mother was in labor. She has climbed down 5 floors in labor. She's gone to the hospital, delivered naturally.
Right.
Her body has completely changed. In terms of not just physically, just her every organ has shifted and moved back. And she's still having to be my mother, finish my homework, take me to school, because dad would go to work and there was no nanny then.
Right.
There was no japa, there was no nanny, there was nobody, and she had to do it all herself. She had to also cook.
Right.
She had to also breastfeed, and she had to also take care of a 5-year-old daughter who was a little territorial, that who is this person come and why is he getting more attention?
Yeah.
But early on, when I saw her struggling, I became friends with my brother. I think since I was born, I would see people having siblings and I would pray that God, give me a baby brother. Give me a baby brother. So when he came, I think he was just, I was like, this is my gift.
Right.
He's my gift. And he was born in September. My birthday was in November. So my mother was like, he's your early birthday gift. And that's how, that's the bond with my brother.
Right.
We are tight. He's in London doing masters in creative writing right now. But the bond with the parents and the siblings, my brother went through his own share of my mom's postpartum.
Yeah.
And the effect it has on the caregivers. My dad, me, my brother.
Right.
And how do we go through it? We, I think we're an empathetic bunch. And how did I forgive her? I went through every day with her in her life. Like I literally asked her everything. What did you do when you were pregnant? How was your first trimester? How was your second trimester? How was your third trimester? She lost her father 15 days after I was born. And she lost her father-in-law, who really championed their wedding, 2 months after I was born.
Oh my
So to
God.
go through loss of just being a wife and now becoming a mother, to becoming a daughter-in-law, and to having loss in the family. How did she go through it all?
Yeah.
And I kept wanting to forgive her, but the wounded child took a little time.
Yes.
But when I did, I just finished it off. Like I was just like, you start afresh.
Right.
There are still triggers.
Of course.
But then I tell her, I was like, it's triggering me. It's reminding me of that time. And it's so strange, Shivani. There are times that she doesn't remember the things that she did. Because she was in the state of postpartum then.
It's also, you know, what we find hurtful, other people don't.
Yes.
So if I said, okay, I'll give you an example. Me and my family, naturally, we say, you idiot, to anything you do wrong. We're like, you idiot.
Yes. And
When
some people are sensitive to it.
Exactly.
Because you don't know what their insecurities are.
Exactly.
You don't know what kind of a day they've had. And I learned that.
Yes.
So I would correct myself. Did I hurt you? Did I say something wrong to you? I would constantly correct. Constantly. It's an everyday, it's the choices you make.
And communication is so important. You know, we're so afraid to say, that made me feel insecure.
Yes.
But we're okay with being upset with someone for a month. And now when everyone makes me feel insecure or upset, I just say it. And it's uncomfortable.
Yes,
I always talk around confrontation. And I say, you should be confrontational. Because telling someone, look, you really hurt me by doing this.
Yes.
And I just want to tell you, and there's nothing that will change now because the situation has happened. But for next time, just be a bit more mindful. Or I can ignore you, pull myself apart from you, and then who loses out?
I mean, both of us.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, what is the point in holding that anger? Because somewhere that anger comes out in some kind of disease.
So true.
And I don't want that. I had thyroid. I have thyroid. Thyroid is an emotional gland.
Right.
And it is all about all the pent up energy. And I don't want it anymore. I want to forgive. I want to let go.
Yeah.
And I want to be happy. I want to communicate. I want to grow.
Right.
I want to heal. And I want to just be better.
Yes.
And I think I did it by myself. Maybe I still need therapy. But safe to say that, like I said, I'm having an identity crisis after my delivery. Who am I? Who is this compassionate, kind, soft-spoken person? And that's what helped me. That's what actually, it's something that now I constantly ask myself, who am I? Like, what's my goal? What's my next goal?
Right.
What's my new collection going to be? What are the colors I'm attracted to right now? What am I presenting forward from this day on?
Yeah.
I've made all my collections. I've had all of those triggers that I converted into my drive, and I did all of it. But now I have it. I have the husband, the dinosaur. I have the Buddha baby. I have a fantastic relationship with my parents, and I have an even more fantastic relationship with my brother. I have staff that are loyal, and I have a society on social media that follows me and loves me and roots for me. What else do I want? And I watched this interview of Shah Rukh Khan randomly on Reels, and he was asked this question, that you have all of it. You have the house, you have the babies, you have the work, you have the name. What drives you? What do you wake up with? Like, what drives you to do better and to make more movies and to act better and to provide more entertainment? Why do you do it? And he's like, I have it all, right? I started from nothing and I have it all. And I acknowledge that I'm privileged. And now I want to give back. So when I watched that, I was like, I want to give back to all the color that came into my life.
Yeah.
I want to give all the color back. And if in my way, a big size girl, a plus size girl sends me a message saying that, Akanksha, you made me feel beautiful, and I felt confident in the fit and in the colors, it's job well done, right?
I love that. So powerful. Thank you so much for being my last guest.
Yes, I hope we ended this with a bang.
We did. And I'm so grateful you came on. And I'm so grateful I met you 2 days ago and you made time for me.
Yes. No, thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure.
I'm going to see you in London soon.
For sure.
Yeah.
Everyone, and thank you so much for listening and watching this podcast. Wherever you're listening or watching, if you could please press the follow, like, and subscribe button, it would really mean the world to me.